Hey folks, Gwei. The other day on our live stream, I got a comment, and I wanted to expand a little bit on it. It was a great question, a very insightful, and I think a very honest, sincere, vulnerable question. I love people who are willing to be vulnerable, who are willing to share what's going on inside them. Anyhow, the comment was, how would you recommend dealing with the thoughts of hate towards the mega evangelical crowd? I know such feelings are serious sin, and I have great difficulty dealing with them. So how would you recommend, Reverend Ed, how would you recommend dealing with the feelings of hate I have towards the mega evangelical crowd? Well, the same way I would recommend dealing with hate towards anyone. Empathy. Now, I want to be clear. Straight up, as we get going into this conversation, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about how do we excuse the behavior. I'm not talking about how do we excuse bad behavior, how do we excuse bad reactions, how do we excuse bigotry and hatred, and no. Not talking about that at all. That's something completely different. I'm talking about the feelings of hate that I may have towards another person. The feelings I have towards another person. How would I deal with that? The answer is empathy. The answer is empathy. Allowing myself to feel like them. Allowing myself to feel, to imagine how they feel. To imagine how they choose. To imagine how they live. To imagine where they come from. To imagine what's going on in their brain. Empathy. To try to imagine walking a mile in their shoes. I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine and I were talking, and they were telling me about work. And they got a problem at work. Now, they love their job. They love where they work. They love 99% of their coworkers, but there's that one guy. And that one guy is causing them problems. This isn't a matter of irritation or frustration. This is a matter of it's harassment, and it's abusive in some ways. Now, as my friend was telling me the story, I wanted to choke the guy. I had nothing but animosity and anger building up within myself for this person. They were telling me about how they how they come to their desk and accost them, how they accuse them of doing things, how they get angry at them. And it's just, it's really a really, really ugly situation. And my anger towards this individual towards this person who was abusing my friend was going through the roof. I love my friend. And then I asked the question, who is this guy? What's this guy's life like? I began asking questions about the guy. And what I found out was, he's living in a very small town, and he's not originally from Canada. They've just come here a few years ago, he and his family. There's nobody in this small Nova Scotia town that looks like him, that looks like them. There's nobody there that speaks their language. There isn't a place where they might go to worship nearby. Certainly there's no denominations or religions like theirs nearby. Their sense of humor just doesn't translate to the Maritimes. It was described that they're a fairly awkward person, on top of the fact that they're new to this country. They're already a fairly socially awkward person. They used to be invited out, right? When the work colleagues got together, they used to get invited out, and they no longer get invited. They eat their lunch alone every day. It wasn't real long before my desire to choke the guy turned into a real, just telling you this story, a week after I've heard it, I want to hug the guy. I want to make his life better. I want to take away his pain. I want to let him know that I'm here, that I'm available, that I'd love to sit down and have a coffee. I'd love to find out about his life here in Canada. I'd love to find out about what his life was like abroad. I feel so bad for the guy because asking those questions, learning about him, imagining being in his situation, and I can only, oh my gosh, the loneliness that I would feel if I were in that situation, the isolation, the despair. Oh, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart thinking about this guy. I just want to give him a hug. Again, I'm not excusing his behavior. It's abusive. It's harassing. It has to stop. It's not okay. It's not doing him any favors, and it's not helping. It's only harming the people that they work with. It has to stop. But the anger I feel towards him is gone. I don't need anger. I know this might sound strange. I don't need anger to correct behavior. I don't need anger to desire to correct the behavior of others in our world. I don't need my anger in order to get out there and work for change. I do that because it's the right thing to do. Anger may fuel me, but it'll burn me out too. Right? That anger, that anger is a toxin. It's a poison. The feelings of hatred, the desire to choke that guy, to punch that guy, it's toxin to me. It's a poison to me. It will ruin me. I can't have it coursing through my system and expect to be a person of peace and a person of love. I just can't. I need to have it taken from me. I need to expel the toxin. And empathy is the way to do that. So bring it back to the mega evangelical crowd. How would you respond dealing with the thoughts of hate towards the mega evangelical crowd? Ask questions about who they are and imagine yourself in their shoes. Why do they follow this guy? What is it about his message that makes them think he's the guy that's going to keep them safe? What is it that they dream of? What is it that they're afraid of? What is it that wakes them up in the middle of the night? What are their hopes for themselves? What are their hopes for their community? What are their hopes for their children? Where do they come from? What's their upbringing like? What's their education like? What's their socioeconomic stature like? Where do they find their hope? Where do they find themselves in despair? My guess is if we do this, if we ask these questions, and again, it's not about excusing the behaviors. It's not about excusing the hate. It's not about excusing the bigotry. It's not about excusing the fear. It's not about excusing the lies. It's about shedding the toxin from our systems. It's about letting go of our hatred towards them. My guess is if we ask these questions, we'll come to an understanding of who these people are. We'll come to an understanding of what it's like to be these people, what their lives are like. And in that, we'll come to a place of sympathy and compassion. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that we would be willing to let go of hatred and anger towards others, whoever the others may be. I pray that anger and hatred towards others would never be a barrier for us, that it would never get in the way of us connecting in an authentic and sincere, honest, and meaningful way with people around us. And while we don't excuse behaviors, we don't excuse hatred, we don't excuse bigotry, we don't excuse intolerance, we don't carry it within ourselves for others either. Amen. Nemultus.